I don't want to wait until the end of the month or the quarter to see these red flags. I'm able to see it weekly so that we can say, okay, well, let's shift the strategy from, something that's generating traffic, but, their leads are down a little bit. Let's change it to a campaign offer for leads and do that this week and talk to them on this week's call and get that going rather than waiting to the end of the month and being like, oh man, numbers are down. It's a lot easier for me to go in and see it and work with our strategists and our team to be able to fix that in a timely manner.
Will and Britt, welcome to the Agency Spotlight Series. Just to get us started, could you tell me a little bit about your respective roles within Bluleadz? I know this is going to be a special version when we have two people on camera at once. So, Britt, if you want to start just telling us a little about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the client relations manager here at Bluleadz. So I'm in charge of overseeing our entire client services team and all of our clients to make sure we're hitting our goals and meeting expectations, things of that nature.
And I'm a strategist for one of our client services teams. So I work very closely with Brittany, our other strategists, and our teams to develop strategies that drive results, monitor those results, and help our clients succeed.
Great. And the first question I had for you guys, one of the benefits of this is we have Databox from two different angles within the agency. What was life like for you before Databox? And we can again start with Britt. How did you run these processes that are key to your job without Databox?
Yeah, so before using Databox, it was primarily in HubSpot just because we do work with HubSpot so much. Everything was in HubSpot or manual and spreadsheets. So, we had your typical Excel docs that track the key, performance indicators that we needed to track for our clients. So it wasn't the most efficient way. It was a lot time consuming to plug everything in and cross-reference and go into different channels and make sure everything is right month to month. But that was primarily what we did in the past.
Yeah, and Will, from your side, was there any particular thing that Databox has touched that was different before?
Yeah, so Databox has been awesome because, to Britt's point, previously we did a lot of our reports either just pulling some information from HubSpot or pulling that information manually into spreadsheets. And sometimes there would be a delay if you had to pull metrics that weren't readily available inside of HubSpot and a client wanted those metrics, you'd have to pull them and put them into a report. And that might take, maybe it's just a couple hours, maybe it's a day or two or something like that. And having Databox at our fingertips makes it easy to access those and provide them to the client instantaneously. So that's been a big benefit that we've seen on the client side.
And how has life changed since you adopted Databox? And we can start with you again, Britt.
It's been great. I know from the client perspective, they love it because it helps with transparency. So it's not like they have to wait on us to get something that they need. They're able to see Databox whenever they want as well. So it's easy for them to get to and see at any time. So when things like that do come up and they need certain numbers, they're able to just pull it up and get what they need. So I would definitely say from the client perspective, it's great. And then for ours, I think, Will and I use it a little bit differently in our roles, but it makes it a lot easier to see everything all in one platform. So rather than having to log into HubSpot and Google Analytics and Facebook and AdWords and pull all the different things that I need to see, it's much easier for us to just go in and filter through the boards really quickly to get what we need at that time. So it's definitely been helpful in terms of just time management as well.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, to draw the line in the sand, for the client, it adds increased visibility into how things are performing. And then for us internally, for Britt, when she's talking about going through and looking at all those dashboards at once, it's easy for her to make sure that we're on track to reach our client goals because we're tracking all of that inside of Databox. So instead of having to pop in the individual HubSpot portals or different reports, we have that built out inside of Databox so she can pop in, every morning and make sure that we're on track.
So yeah, Britt, you just mentioned that you're a big fan of the client performance dashboard. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, like how you use it in your day-to-day role? What's been so powerful about it?
Yeah, so in my day-to-day role, it's something that I check every morning. So I'm able to go in and see easily where the red flags are, where things are going really well. So it's a nice, quick look every morning to get, the top level stuff that I need to see. But I also meet with our strategists weekly, and we go through the board and we go through each client and say, okay, like which numbers are in the red, which numbers are in the green, how far off are we from the goal? What are we doing to actually fix that like right now? Like I don't want to wait until the end of the month or the quarter to see these red flags. I'm able to see it weekly so that we can say, okay, well, let's shift the strategy from, something that's generating traffic, but, their leads are down a little bit. Let's change it to a campaign offer for leads and do that this week and talk to them on this week's call and get that going rather than waiting to the end of the month and being like, oh man, numbers are down. It's a lot easier for me to go in and see it and work with our strategists and our team to be able to fix that in a timely manner.
Yeah, and so there's two interesting things you mentioned there. One was like the things you do on a daily basis, and the things and also that you do on the weekly meetings. So let's just talk about the daily part first. What are some things you're looking for on a daily basis?
So daily basis, because I'm going in more quick, it's more of like a check-in, me personally in the morning. It's just, where are the numbers red? How far off is that percentage? Like, what do I really need to be concerned about? Because that helps me figure out where I need to spend my time because we have so many clients. Like, it's hard to, spend time on 50 different clients in a day, right? So it's like, okay, let me prioritize, where I think the team needs some help and figure out what's going on there. So that's really more of the day-to-day. It's kind of like those high-level metrics. Once I kind of figure out where the gaps are, then I can kind of plan my week and say, okay, I need to spend more time diving into the specific campaigns and what's going on with their paid if they're running paid. And that's when I really switch over to the client dashboards that has all of those metrics so I can see a bigger view of what's going on in that account and start to, make campaigns and help the team come up with ideas to fix, the problem areas.
Yeah, and then in the weekly meetings, like how does that play? Like how does it play out? Or do you just go systematically through all your account managers, or how do you keep them on track in the weekly meetings?
Yeah, so we try to make them, pretty quick and consistent. So we have 3 strategists right now. So the board is it has each strategist in order basically. So it'll be like all of Will's clients, all of Cass's clients, all of Jackie's clients, and so they'll go through one by one, and it's just kind of like a quick look, like okay, what's not working, what is, and then from that we schedule separate meetings after the fact to go over wherever there may be issues, and so that way we can spend more time on those specific accounts. Sure. And they know weekly we're checking in, so they come prepared usually because they're checking it as well weekly, so they'll say, hey, I know this one is down, here's what I'm doing to fix it, which is really nice because we've gotten into a cadence now where they know to do that on their own. So rather than me coming and saying, hey, what's going on? They're like, hey, I know it's there, which is nice. Here's what we're doing, to fix that. So next week it should be better because this offer we've been, working on behind the scenes for 2 weeks. It's launching next week. That's going to drive these numbers. So they kind of come prepared, which is really nice too, just so that things are more effective.
And do you guys talk with the clients on a weekly basis and like update them on data or just on projects, or is it more on a monthly basis?
So we do talk to clients weekly, so I can let Will speak more to that because he's on a lot of the client calls, but we do weekly and monthly meetings.
Yeah. So we communicate with our clients on a weekly basis, and we send over agendas ahead of time. And at the top of all those agendas is a link to the Databox data boards. So we keep that information front and center. And usually the weekly meetings are dedicated more to, just checking in, making sure that we're not far off our goals, but really checking out on the progress of the initiatives that we're working on. So we go over things that we've completed and things that are coming up the following week and talk about any impediments that might be in our way, whether the client needs something from us or we need something from the client to make those things happen. And then on a monthly basis, we actually create or dive into our monthly reports, which we use data from Databox, but we do kind of build things out a little bit more and add some more context to the numbers than just the number data boards, and actually walk through the key performance indicators that we're tracking for our clients, explain why those numbers are the way they are, and talk about pivoting if we have to pivot or doubling down on things that are working well.
Yeah, I think one thing that a lot of agencies find intimidating is that weekly conversation with clients when the numbers, as an agency, you can't make miracles happen in a week. You need, a few weeks to get there. And it can be intimidating to share that number on a weekly basis and say, hey, we're not where we would hope we would be, and like maybe a little off track to the monthly or quarterly goal. How do you share that with the client and still feel like secure and feel confident as an agency that they're going to stick with you and that they're going to remain confident in you?
Yeah, so for us, we found that being as proactive and transparent as possible about those things is the best way to handle those. So with us, we're always monitoring our progress and communicating that back to the client. So if we are off goals, we've gotten very comfortable having those conversations with the client and coming up with solutions to those problems. And it's just worked really well for us.
Yeah, I think it's actually worked in our favor because now being able to see it every week on weekly calls, the clients know for a fact that we're looking at it and we're on top of it rather than saying, hey, it's the end of the month and this is what happens. And they say, well, why didn't you catch this earlier? It's actually worked in our favor where they're like much more understanding as to, hey, we understand the process now. We understand it takes time. We've seen past offers work and we understand there's stuff that goes into the behind the scenes. But because they look at it every week and they know what we're doing to work towards that, we're in much more alignment. So it actually has created a much better relationship.
And I know, Britt, you talked about briefly before, some of the adjustments that you make in meeting, in that weekly meeting. Is there any example you can walk me through, or a recent thing that comes to mind where you had someone make adjustments? I know you shared the releasing an offer more quickly, or just letting people know that's coming out soon. Are there any other memorable examples where you've made a change based on a weekly meeting?
I mean, typically what we'll see is if their traffic is through the roof and they're like, this is great, but we don't care, we want leads. Mm-hmm. Rather than doing our typical blogging on that weekly call, we'll say, hey, look, your visits are through the roof right now. This is where the problem area is. And we do work in the agile methodology. So we have our quarterly strategies planned out and we work with points-based pricing so they know how much everything is to get done per month. So we'll say, hey, look, we're already meeting your traffic goal. We're really, behind on the leads goal. So why don't we take out the rest of the stuff we have in for traffic, put in this extra campaign and see if that drives your leads, because we're looking at the numbers right now. Let's not wait until the end of the quarter. We can pull up that strategy document that's laid out. It's very easy to show them hey, here's the numbers from Databox. Let's swap this. And it makes it a lot easier. And we can do that on a weekly call, just update the strategy doc and we're off to the races for the next week. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really powerful. I wanted to take a step back here because it sounds like you guys have already done a great job of setting expectations up front, right? There's already clear expectations of how this client is going to work with your agency, what the goals are. So I wanted to hear more about how you guys kick that off and get the goals in the first place. And I guess this one's for Will, because Will, I know you're involved a little bit in the sales process. Can you just tell how you guys set goals in the sales process, I guess, so that people understand what it's going to be like to work with your agency?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So everything ties back to the client's overall business goals. And we like to keep our goals as metrics focused as possible. So then that way they're quantifiable and it's very cut and dry of whether we're actually providing value and meeting the expectations set for us. So everything really ties back into ROI for the client. So try to get the client's revenue goals, and then we'll work backwards from that. So, okay, well, you've got to meet this revenue goal. Okay, what's an average deal size for you? How many opportunities do we need to get? What's that closing rate from opportunity to customer? And then work backwards through the marketing and sales funnel to reverse engineer those numbers and get our clear-cut traffic and lead goals.
How do you present that to them? How do you present that story to them in the sales process?
So we have so for all of our sales prospects sales opportunities, we create a kickoff 90-day strategy document. And so inside that document, we include all of the goals and the initiatives that we're going to complete to help them reach those goals. And we have a whole call dedicated to reviewing all that information with them. So really on that call is where we paint the picture of, okay, we've talked to you previously about your business goals. Here they are, and here are the initiatives that we can provide you that are going to help you reach those goals. And then here's why. And I explained that to them, explain how each initiative that we're proposing is going to help them reach those goals that we set out or that they have, and just kind of walk them through that process and explain everything to them.
How'd you choose 90 days? Why not 6 months or a year? How'd you just end up on that framework?
So part of it is just because the marketplace changes so quickly, and we want to be able to be agile and say, hey, look, if the data is showing that something's not working, it makes it easier to pivot in a shorter time frame than a whole time frame. It's not to say that we aren't looking at 6, 9, 12 months out. Like, we understand their yearly goals and their yearly revenue, and like that is definitely part of what we talk about. But in terms of aligning the initiatives with those 90 days, we kind of start there as a sweet spot, because really, your first 30 is kind of getting up and running, getting to know the client, doing some of that foundational stuff. And then, diving into their specific goals from there. And that way, every quarter we can kind of regroup and do a deeper dive of what worked well and didn't, work as well, and where we need to go moving forward. So 90 just seems to kind of work for us, but that's not to say that we're not still looking farther out too.
Yeah. Okay. And I got another question for Will on this one, which is, you talked a little bit about like inbound centric metrics. I heard opportunities, customers. Do you guys track the full inbound funnel? Like, what are there a standard set of metrics that you present to them, and how you and when you set expectations?
Yeah. So we track everything from sales opportunities, SQLs, MQLs, leads, and traffic. But it really just depends on the specific metrics that we're reporting on for a client. It ties back into what their goals are, what does success look like for them, and then mapping that success to KPIs and metrics so that we can, and reporting on those and improving on those metrics.
Sure. Britt, do you want to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I will say, once they sign on too, like that's when we get more granular as well. So like, we're not just looking at visits and leads. Like, if we're running email campaigns or lead nurturing campaigns, within that 90-day strategy, some of our KPIs and the metrics we're looking at are related to those campaigns. So we will say, hey, we have this email open rate goal or this deliverability goal or whatever it is. We do rope that in too. That's just usually after they sign in. More like once they're a client, we get more specific there when we're putting things out.
Yeah. And one thing I'm really hearing is that would be a lot to fit on one dashboard. How do you position that? Because you don't want the person to be overwhelmed by all looking at it on one dashboard. How do you share that with them without making it too overwhelming?
You want to take that?
Yeah.
You set them up.
Yeah, I'll take that. So we take that into consideration in building out our Databox dashboards. And we have what we call the executives dashboard, which is a high-level overview dashboard that just reports on like super pertinent KPIs and metrics that dive into the overall health and wellness of our inbound initiatives and how we're contributing to our clients' success. And then following that dashboard, we do have other dashboards that go into the more nitty-gritty and specific marketing metrics. So we do have some folks that we work with who are really interested in that information. And Databox does a great job with the custom metrics and calculated metrics. So if they're looking for very unique reporting that we can't pull out of HubSpot or Google Analytics straight out of the box, we can plug that stuff in too. So then that way everybody's happy. And if folks don't want to get into the nitty gritty, we can accommodate and not overwhelm them. But for our clients who really do want to see that things on a very granular and specific level, we can provide that level of insight too.
Are there any common examples of specific dashboards that like you like to get more granular on, or you hear a lot of like, can we dig further into this?
Yeah, I think one of them is PPC.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're doing PPC campaigns, like we have a dashboard specific to PPC because clients are putting even more money in that medium because they have to pay, to the channels to even put that out there. So PPC is definitely a big one that we see a lot of. Do a lot of email marketing. So we usually have email specific ones as well. Social, for running social campaigns. So we kind of break it up by channel to do that in a sense. And that seems to help and be an easy way for people to kind of comprehend what we're showing them.
Cool. Well, I think this has been great, guys. Thanks a lot for your advice and sharing your experience here. One last question before we end. Is there anything you're looking forward to doing with Databox in the future, or anything that you're excited about that you're about to roll out that we didn't talk about yet?
Yeah, I'll take this one because
go for it.
We've actually been talking, Kevin and I have talked about this a little bit. I'm really excited to dive into the Jira integration. It's in beta right now, but one of the things that we're looking for in a reporting platform is to be able to, because some of our clients have, we have some folks who come to us they're totally starting from scratch. They don't have a website. They need a website, and we can help with that. And we have other folks who have been running inbound campaigns for several years, and they're really looking for us to kind of take the baton and help get them to the next level. But those folks where they have specific goals that aren't really metrics driven, like developing a website, it's been hard to find a platform where we can actually like track progress on that side by side with those other metrics driven goals that we talked about. And so the Jira integration, I think messing around with that and figuring out how we can create some sort of dashboards to track our progress on non-metric driven goals is really exciting, and I can't wait to dive into that.